Wild Willie T's Arm Wrestling and Strongman Rants, bringing you commentary, news, and insights on the two sports I love the most, both from a fan's perspective and a journalistic perspective, but with a twist. I know you don't know me from a hole in the wall. I'm not an arm wrestler per se, and I'm not a strong man either, but I am a huge fan of both sports and have been since childhood. Through my many personal and professional transformations, my affinity for arm wrestling and strongman has never ever wavered. It seems now that since I had life-altering surgery 6 years ago, I regret not seeking out clubs across the province of Nova Scotia earlier. During my rants, apart from offering news, commentary, and reviews of other YouTubers' work, I'll also freely criticize arm wrestlers and strongmen that most commentators wouldn't dare criticize because those athletes are seen as gods in their sport. Gods. Well, sorry. I only worship one god, and his name isn't Brzenk or Kazmaier or Larratt or Shaw or Levon. I couldn't give a rat's ass what people think or say about me, and the only promise I make is that I'll offer you the truth as I see it, and I'll only change my mind if you can refute my arguments. If you can't refute my arguments, just get some popcorn and brace yourself for rants that you may never hear elsewhere. Well, with the exception of Travis Bagent, maybe. But my rants will be coherent and well thought out, not just verbal diarrhea spewing from the lips of a butthurt has-been, who isn't nearly as good as he once was, and was never as good as he ever thought he was. But I digress. Back to the topic at hand. I'm also a professional broadcaster, but the radio station I manage opère en français, and I cater only to a very small audience. So let's call this expanding my audience. I'll tell you more about myself in future videos, who I am, a bit about my history, my other social media ventures, and what life-altering surgery has done to my ability to play sports I once loved. But for now, beings were in a rather slow time in strongman, I wanted this to be my first video because of the man responsible for getting me hooked on arm wrestling. I want to focus on the man, the myth, the legend, and yes, in my opinion, possibly the true GOAT of arm wrestling, Devon Larratt. Wait, don't leave. Hear me out first. That's all I ask. Then leave and never come back if what I'm saying doesn't make sense to you. With COVID-19 ravaging pretty much every country in the world, what seemed like a curse for sports like arm wrestling turned out to be a blessing. We saw YouTube and social media stars like Devon, Schoolboy, Neil Pickup, and others explode and get more notoriety. We saw the emergence of new stars like Monster Michael Todd, Ryan Bowen, Chance Shaw, Uncle John Thompson, Arm Wrestling News, and many others. Too many to name here. We've seen new promoters offer new tournaments and events, the likes we've never seen before. I've also come to learn that Devon Larratt, for some strange reason, does not get the credit or the respect he truly deserves. People forget that despite all his accomplishments in arm wrestling, it was more or less a passionate hobby when it all began, and something to do when he wasn't risking his life on battlefields all over the world. Do people forget that Devon Larratt was a member of Canada's Joint Task Force? He was basically the Canadian equivalent of an American Navy SEAL, and probably the top team within the SEALs. Do people forget that this man has put himself through some of the most excruciating circumstances you could imagine? He's done military endurance competitions. He's been responsible for training new Special Forces members, if rumors I've heard are correct. He's dodged bullets, probably defused bombs, probably saw things most of us would lose sleep over. Probably had to do things most of us cannot begin to fathom. Yet, for some reason, he gets called a pussy or gets accused of dodging European arm wrestlers from 2008 to 2013 or so. Really? Some of these Europeans Devon supposedly dodged were at elite levels and more than likely sponsored and or paid by the respective government and corporations to arm wrestle. In Canada and the United States, team sports are promoted, and sponsored for youths and teenagers, or Olympic sports right on up through the professional ranks. But arm wrestling? Not so much, nor strongman for that matter. So arm wrestling in Canada, at least to my knowledge, was traditionally part of the culture and reserved for barrooms or community halls or festivals or anywhere else two strong human beings could hook up and pull. Devon did get sponsored by the military to arm wrestle at times, but he couldn't just arm wrestle whenever he wanted to. He had to arm wrestle when he wasn't deployed. So just wrap your heads around that for a minute. I grew up watching strong fishermen arm wrestle strong lumberjacks or other fishermen. These men worked with their backs and their hands, and their strength was often just illustrated on the arm wrestling tables that they had built themselves out of wood or steel, or both. When Devon Larratt was on any arm wrestling table between 2008 and 2013 or so, it was a break from work for him. While many Europeans' sole focus was on arm wrestling, while John Brzenk's only focus on weekends was on arm wrestling. Well, Devon Larratt may have had other pressing issues on his mind, and he couldn't blow up to 300 pounds of raw power back then because he had to maintain the overall fitness required of a Special Forces soldier.
I always get a kick out of people on the message boards. They're like, Devon, you never showed up at this event, at that event. You were scared. Like, anyways, much respect to all the guys and girls out there still doing the job.
So anyone who ever claims that Devon Larratt is scared of anyone or anything for that matter, well, they may want to give their heads a shake, or better yet, just go get a lobotomy. Neil Pickup confirms that Devon Larratt sought out right-handed matches with the top European arm wrestlers from 2008 to 2012 or so, but it was them who dodged Devon Larratt. People also seem to forget that Devon Larratt was also the best on both arms for a period of several months or even years during that same time period. I could be mistaken, but I'm almost positive Devon Larratt held world titles on both arms simultaneously. How many arm wrestlers can claim that? How many can say they've reached the pinnacle of the sport on both arms? It's almost like someone winning the batting title one year right-handed and then the next year left-handed. It's unheard of. Or a pitcher in the majors starting a game pitching with his right hand and finishing with the left. They'd be praised. Devon Larratt? What credit does he get? In spite of suffering a pulmonary embolism just months before facing the monster Michael Todd in May of 2021, Devon still showed up the best he's ever been to that super match at King of the Table 1. And we should remember that the monster and Mrs. Todd were also very clear that Michael was going to be the best he's ever been for that match.
So how it works for me is each time there is a match and there is a prep, that new prep will be a stronger version of me. So far, that's how it's worked the last 4 super matches. I've came in stronger. The first time I broke the cable at 275 pounds, it wasn't the cable, it was the D-ring. The D-ring snapped. So I found it like 2 days later. What the hell is this piece of metal? Because it was completely straight.
Yeah.
And I looked at it, I was like, oh shit, that's the D-ring. So the D-ring snapped and just straightened all the way up.
Like a
on the first one. Yeah. Well, that one almost hit my head on the back of on the Olympic curl bar, Olympic bench bar. So I moved it last week because I thought, hey, it'd be better to shoot the videos towards this big badass gym versus over there in kind of like a corner. And sure enough, 287 for a trip when it snaps on me.
Yeah, I can imagine why that would happen.
We should also remember that in January of 2021, Michael and Rebecca Todd made their way to Dubai in hopes of securing a match against Levon Sagsinashvili, whom is considered to be the overall #1 arm wrestler in the world today. And I admit it's difficult to argue with that statement, well, at least for the time being. But let's go back to January of 2021, a full 4 months before Devon Larratt destroyed Michael Todd in Dubai.
So we are really trying to make this happen for everyone. We're talking to the right people. Levon and I want this to be for real. We don't want it just to be playing around on the table. We want to find out who the top dog is. And if you feel the same, drop it down in the comments. Give us a like, a share, subscribe. We got to let these people know that we're a good investment. Guys, we're really close. So Levon just told me that the Russian Arm Wrestling Federation, for WAF, if any Russian athlete is caught taking a photo with Denis Simplinkov or Vitaly Larratt, they face a 2-year suspension because they're part of PAL. Yes. Oh my God, that's tyranny. What is going on here? That is crazy.
Oh my gosh.
That's insane.
It seemed pretty clear to me back then that most of the experts and most of the arm wrestling community felt that Michael Todd versus Levon Sagsinashvili would indeed be the match needed to determine the top arm wrestler on the planet.
So we have an opportunity to blow up arm wrestling, expose it to the largest fan base we've ever had due to social media and everything. We're in an amazing opportunity right now, and all they're doing is hurting themselves. I mean, if I win, who cares? We'll do it again under PAL. If he wins, who cares?
Well, say if you win.
Oh, no, I'm 100% going to win.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm
okay.
politically correct here. But I have no doubt. I like Levon. Levon's a great young man. We had a great, but I found out what I needed to find out, and the lane is there for me. And there's 3 factors that will allow me to win that match: riser, pronation, and heart. I won't quit. The Eastern European
T-shirt right there.
That is a good T-shirt. You know what I'm saying?
Where's
New brand coming out.
Get shoulders writing that down.
There you go. But yeah, so I don't know, man. The 2 guys in North America want to arm wrestle are both on this call right here. I want to pull both you guys again, but this shit's got to happen.
I'll take the loser.
Opportunity right now to not capitalize. Over like you're up to? You want a shot?
No, I'll take the loser right after that match.
There you go.
Yeah.
If it's me and Jerry, you're probably going to win after that. Well, probably, if it's me and either one of these guys, you're probably going to win, the next round. Because both of our matches end up going long. But I don't know, man. I just don't understand. You got to go? Oh, hey, he wants to pull you guys, too. So Corey's on a minute. After he's like,
stay away from Corey's left.
Impressive. I just got a text from Rebecca telling me to invite Jerry to come down and train. So that's your second invitation on this call. Make something happen.
I'm not against it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've got a big match coming up, and I'm gonna need training partners. So I got a 12-week camp.
Who's your big match?
Well, still hoping for Levon, but we'll be hearing pretty soon what's going down. It's up to the promotion, but hopefully PAL quits being a bunch of little bitches and fucking lets Levon arm wrestle. You know what I'm saying? I mean, what in the fuck?
It's interesting, wasn't it? Because
hold on. Honest to God, I'm going to talk about this for just a second. I have no idea what's going on. I've had a 14-year relationship with Igor, and all of a sudden they went over there to Dubai and started disrespecting me in a video with Larry. And then I even talked to him before I went to Dubai. I told him I wanted to set up the match with Levon. Carol's like, well, we'll have to figure it out. I'm like, okay, cool. I go over there. I get significant funds. Probably the biggest appearance fee anyone gets ever just to show up for a match, and probably the biggest win bonus for one single match that's ever been. There's probably some back alley shit that's happened somewhere in other countries that's bigger than this, but as far as the mainstream arm wrestling, and they contacted PAL, we're giving them a piece of the pie, and they say no.
For reasons that still remain cloaked in mystery and shenanigans, Levon Saganishvili and his handler, whom I will never name, at the time, didn't seem to want anything to do with Michael Todd at King of the Table 1, especially not with those horrible rules that allow for the horrible King's move. Well, Europeans love to criticize that horrible King's move, in spite of the fact that it's perfectly illegal. As long as the shoulder doesn't go below the table, as long as it stays parallel or above, it's an outside top roll, and it works. And Mr. Levon should watch out for it, but I'm getting ahead of myself. When it was announced that Devon Larratt would be facing Michael Todd at King of the Table, well, again, Nobody showed much respect to Devon. Most people thought it would either be 6-0 for Michael or an absolute war, with Michael probably taking the win.
Because Devon knows every angle to go and he can try everything what he can do. But the power difference is the one that kind of gonna mess it up, right? I was actually talking to him the other day and he said he will be stupid strong. So this gives me hopes. Probably since Michael been beating him the last couple of times, I will probably gonna root for Devon, right? But if I were to bet money, I'll bet money on Michael, right? And as far as the match, you're gonna see some King's moves.
You think it's gonna be King's moves? Do you think that it's gonna be a factor at all that since their last match in 2018, Michael has had a continuous training partner with Corey the Gorilla? Do you think that's gonna help him?
Well, did Michael never had a practice partner before that?
He did not.
Okay, yeah, so that's will make a difference for sure. Yeah. For sure, yeah. But, I mean, Devon also said that he will be like, because the thing is, Devon wants it more than Michael, I think, right? Because Michael already have done, even though Michael doesn't want to lose, but does Michael wants to lose, don't want to lose as bad as Devon wants to win? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I bet you, I'm 100% sure that Michael doesn't want to lose that one.
There's no question in the world. Mike's going to go 3-0.
Well, there you have it. It has nothing to do with the fact that this monster is helping us, right?
And, that I don't even like Michael Todd, so.
Let's see, my predictions for Michael Todd versus Devon. Well, it's going to come down to this. Devon's been clawing and scratching to try to get Michael Todd for so long. And it doesn't matter if it's UAL, doesn't matter if it's Armwrestling or WAL, doesn't even matter if Devon has to ambush Todd, Todd still came out on top. Therefore, Devon's going to eat all the pancakes he wants. It ain't going to matter. I mean, Devon's going to get some wins, rest assured, because Michael Todd's willingness not to lose is going to prevail. Therefore, I got the monster with the victory, with the W.
Right now, if the match was on, I'm slightly Devon. I think if Michael recovers, I'm slightly Michael. And I think Michael has more opportunity to run away with it in that prediction sense. But right now, I'm slightly Devon.
I don't see any variation where this match isn't a war. I really see it as a hold on to your life war. Because every time Devon arm wrestles, he likes to go there. Every time anyone arm wrestles Michael, Michael goes there. So it's my prediction is a war
between Michael and Devon. I was almost betting on Michael, but I think it's gonna be so close. The way I see Devon, I don't know, big Devon, 290 pounds plus right now. I think he might be a surprise. I mean, I always saying like it's 50-50, but if I have to do a prediction now, I'm gonna say Devon 4-2.
Hey, he's beating the best version of me. So, I can't say anything about it.
Not once leading up to the match did Michael Todd or Rebecca indicate that they weren't mentally prepared. Not once did they say he was weaker than he would have been against Levon. Not once did Michael Todd claim to be taking it easy in his training. He was training as though he would face Levon someday, and he met a new and improved version of Devon Larratt. The version Devon promised, but nobody thought he could actually deliver. Immediately after the loss, Michael Todd played it cool and gave Devon props.
Hey, he's beating the best version of me. So.
Michael today told me on the phone, he said, he sort of started to say what he was saying about it, and then he said, I mean, my God, he said it was almost otherworldly.
But then the excuses started for some reason. And the monster even went so far as to have the referee of the match appear on his channel and make it sound like Devon did not face the best version of Michael Todd.
What was real interesting about every time that we met or talked about the rules, in the back of my head and listening to the conversation that we all had, I got one guy that wants to be the best. He wanted a match. He wanted a fair match so he could see who's going to prevail. Then on the other side, I got another guy that's more into what, in my mind, what can we get away with the rules? Know what I mean? So You got one guy that just wants to get his arm down on the table, start beating on, the opponent, and the other one, well, what about this rule? What about that? Or if we tweak it this way, we tweak. So in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, are we going to try to beat the match by beating the rules, or are we going to beat the match by beating the arm wrestler? That in the back of my head was probably the most hardest thing to manage.
Well, the thing about, and I learned this from Devon, and that's what he said. He said the fight starts before the match ever starts, right? So
when you say the match before it started, I'm just going to be opinionated. I kind of feel like he got in your head a little bit. Now, this is what was interesting, Mike, is I felt that he got in your head a little bit because I've reffed you, if not 100 different times, and that wasn't the same Michael Todd that I'm used to seeing.
For some reason, I didn't have the aggression. I don't know what it was, and I've said this several times in videos. I think he Jedi mind fucked me somehow. We hung out. You saw us at breakfast every day for 4 or 5 days, and I got to hear a lot of his story and his comeback and things he's been through, and I really became a fan, and I got invested in his story, and I did not behave the way I would normally behave in that situation. So it just, for whatever reason, he had probably the best performance of his life, and I had not the best performance of my life.
Well,
and everything happens as
it worked out. I mean, I'm all good.
Yeah, no, I think.
Instead of acknowledging that Devon Larratt has leveled up several levels, many in the arm wrestling community seem to minimize what Devon Larratt had just done to Michael Todd. Nobody had ever done to Michael Todd what Devon Larratt did to him on that May night in Dubai. He dominated the monster in a way that nobody has ever dominated him. Devon then sought out Levon Sagsinashvili for himself, but again, scheduling issues made the match impossible for the end of summer or even 2021 in general. So what did Devon do? Well, in search of a spiritual cleansing, Devon decided that on a month's notice or so, he'd take a boxing match with Thor Bjornsson. The behemoth, also known as Thor, also known as the Mountain from the Game of Thrones. Yeah, that guy, who now looks like this, and moves like this, and hits like this. And what does Devon Larratt, the pussy who's supposedly scared of European arm wrestlers, say about the experience?
Hey, dude, I tried, man. That first time he hit me, I was like, okay, that's a little bit harder than I'm used to. That was great, man. I didn't get brain damage. Maybe, but I didn't get my jaw broke, so that's cool. So, hey, man, what a trip. I'm just happy I got the call. Happy I got to experience this boxing game. Thor's a stud, man. I hope he goes all the way. I hope he's like the front runner for athletes making the crossover into this great sport. Hey, I did get a cut, so I'm happy with that. I'm gonna pour salt in it so it stays. I don't want stitches. I want this thing to be a permanent reminder of my encounter with Thor.
But you feel all right, though?
Yeah, I'm good. I can't hear for some reason. Is that normal? I can't hear out of my right ear, but whatever. Honestly, I'm just super happy.
Not bad, after fighting a literal giant who'd been training for a boxing match against another giant for over a year. Not bad, right? A real pussy who dodged arm wrestling matches against Europeans. Sure. Just because the Eastern Europeans have this deep, deep voice and big... Anyway. Meanwhile, in the good old US of A, John the Goat Brzenk decides to make a comeback in arm wrestling and decides to take aim at the heavyweight division, unbeknownst to most of the arm wrestling world at the time, in part because he was still butthurt over being toyed with by Devon Larratt back in 2008. But John played it smart and accumulated wins over pretty good arm wrestlers, a few of which were bigger than he was. Each John had, it seemed he got bigger and stronger. It's as if Devon Larratt had shared his pancake diet with the GOAT. Brzenk got a win over Chance Shaw, who, might I remind you, made pretty quick work of Jordan Sill, Don Underwood, and Mike Aiello. So he's not exactly a slouch. He also defeated left-hand specialist Cody Merritt, who was no slouch on the right hand either. And then John beat Paul Lynn, who was considered a world-class puller. So John was well on his way to a great comeback. With every match he pulled, like I said, he seemed like he got bigger and stronger, and nobody was making any excuse for his 57-year-old arm. Quite the opposite. It was still striking fear in the hearts of pullers across America. I'll repeat, America, or as Neil Pickup would say it, America. Before I go any further, right up until his most recent match with Devon, John Brzenk was my second favorite arm wrestler. And now that I'm a little less upset as time goes on, I guess he still is. But at the time, what I saw from him from the moment his match against Devon was announced kind of pissed me off. It didn't disappoint me, it didn't make me sad, it pissed me off. And it probably pissed off Devon Larratt as well, and Devon fans and proud Canadians that support him out there, because we know who Devon Larratt is. He's more than just an arm wrestler, he's a bona fide war hero. When John Brzenk actually said that he passed an offer to fight Hermes Gasparini at King of the Table 2, and that he'd prefer to face Devon because he felt he had a better chance of beating Devon or Devon's style, well, kick me in the gonads. And if I felt like I had been kicked in the gonads, I can only imagine how Devon Larratt felt. Not only did John Brzenk, everyone's favorite arm wrestling hero, including Devon Larratt, call out Devon, he then proceeded to taunt him, mock him, and minimize every one of Devon's accomplishments in the sport right into the press conference. John insisted that Devon was basically a nobody who dodged Europeans and didn't deserve to be named amongst the best of the sport.
John Brzenk, do you rank Devon as a top 5 arm wrestler of all time?
Well, of course not. He hasn't arm wrestled any of the top 5 guys on the planet yet, right-handed. So, I mean, how could you rank him top?
Hey, John,
5?
were you top 5 when I fucking murdered you? Or no, you were probably like
that situation. I was 209.
No, you're injured.
I was 209
You're injured,
pounds.
right?
I was not even a heavyweight.
No, you're
when you
a
challenged
little
me.
weakling.
He insisted as well that when Devon handed him his first super match loss in 2008, that he was injured and tried to cancel the match, but that Devon insisted it move forward, and insisting this while Neil Pickup, the promoter of the event, doesn't seem to recall this injury, nor its announcement, nor any mention of it leading up to the match in 2008. But I digress. Devon warned John and his fans repeatedly leading up to King of the Table 2 in December.
I've been a lot less confident and still won, so I don't see anything changing really after tomorrow. So
Completely destroy you, John. Completely destroy you. I'm going to completely murder you at the table tomorrow. Completely eat your soul.
It's not going to happen.
I'm going to fucking wreck you.
He'll apologize.
I'm going to break you into pieces.
I want an official apology.
I'm going to apologize to Renee. That's who I'm going to apologize to. Yeah, I'm sorry to all the John Brzenk's fans. I'm sorry. I'm going to destroy your hero tomorrow.
Devon and his fans knew full well that Devon was now on a new level. We saw that warrior's glare in his match with Michael Todd after round 2. It's a cold, hard glare. It's a look that only warriors can achieve, because only warriors can allow their minds to go to those places that the average person just cannot. Only warriors can risk life and limb with reckless abandon, whether it be in a boxing ring, in an octagon, or on a battlefield, let alone an arm wrestling table. When Devon Larratt walked out from backstage wearing his military pants against Michael Todd, I knew it was going to be a bad day for the monster. And then again on December 11th, when he walked out to face the GOAT, the military pants told me it would be a very long day for John Brzenk. The match against John was different than the match against Michael in that it was a shutout stake. John only had to win one match to win the shutout stake, so you can be sure Devon knew that John would be hitting with all he had in that first round, possibly not caring at all about the further rounds if he could win that first one. Devon had mistakenly believed that he wouldn't have to use that King's move, but even when he did, his shoulder remained well above the table, his hand never came closer than an inch or two from the pin pad, and within seconds he had complete control of the GOAT. Devon, surprisingly, seemed to drain Brzenk in the very first round, or at the very least scared him enough to make him pin himself. Michael Todd, who was one of the commentators, believed Devon would have to use this move repeatedly. Even when Devon set up inside for round 2, Michael Todd didn't think Devon would go there.
He might be able to pin his King's move. But if he can't do it in the first 15 seconds, you're going to see the same thing again.
Open up.
But I do not believe he's going to go try to turn him into a hook at anything at this point. That could be a round 3 option or something, but I honestly think he was testing out that lane, and he feels like, okay, Devon said he would not do a King's move round 1. I just put him in the King's move. Now let's go and see if I can't go ahead and pin this guy. That's what I feel. That's what I'm feeling. I'm not saying it's going to work. Put Devon in that King's move. You see Devon looking, he's got his shoulder committed forward, but I do not think he's going there.
No moving. You can. I agree entirely. John standing his hand up, looking for the height, looking to try and expose the hand and the wrist. Go!
But he did, and he controlled John Brzenk and the match, and it was pretty much the end of John Brzenk's attempt at 2008 redemption. Devon apologized after round 2.
How much sorry, John Brzenk has got so much fatigue. He had.
But a few moments later.
Hands. Go! Oh my word!
That's right, round 3, where once again Devon Larratt did something that nobody's ever done. He flash pinned John Brzenk. When you watch it in slow motion, it allows you to appreciate the explosiveness of that hit. Devon was weighing 280 pounds and bounces twice from the force of that hit. A perfectly timed, perfectly executed, powerful, fast hit that left John Brzenk in a place he had never been before.
That may be true. He might be stronger than I am, but he's slow as hell. He has no reaction time. I'll take him out of position, I'll bleed him, and then I'll beat him.
You can't even say that with a straight face, can you? You can't.
Again, we saw that cold glare from Devon Larratt. The same glare that probably struck fear in the hearts of soldiers who faced him on battlefields in the Middle East. But still, after all this in 2021, nobody seems to be giving him any chance against Levon Sagsinashvili. Levon has beaten everyone he's faced since 2018 without losing a single round, but Devon has now beaten the supposed best-ever version of Michael Todd 6-0, if you count the forfeits, or left-handed match, or whatever the hell went on after round 4, and the same with John Brzenk. Maybe not the best version of John Brzenk, but certainly the biggest, and possibly close to the strongest version of John. Devon admits that Levon is probably the rightful owner of the Legacy Hammer. Devon admits that he'll be a monumental climb to the top of the super heavyweight arm wrestling mountain.
Levon is Everest in this sport, and I have a Legacy Hammer that is calling for him, and I have to do my very best to keep that thing in Canada, but it's a strong pull to Georgia, and that is absolutely my mission, to face Levon Saganishvili. Levon, keep getting bigger, buddy. Keep getting bigger.
Devon recognizes that this will be a war. Devon recognizes that he has to push his body and his mind to places he may never have pushed them before. But if Levon Sagsinashvili approaches this as a sport rather than a war, he may regret it. If he focuses on weight training and new personal records and making fun of how much Devon Larratt could or can bench press instead of understanding the cerebral assassin he's about to face, well, he may regret it. And if he thinks calling one of his friends Devon throughout the duration of his training camp is going to somehow bring Devon down to his friend's level, well, he's as delusional as all the groupies who believe he's going to win in a 6-0 blowout. Might I remind you that Levon Saganishvili is also the man who took credit for training Larry Wheels in preparation for his match against Brandon Allen? Levon knew that Brandon Allen would use the King's move, so wouldn't it be natural to believe that he would have trained Larry to deal with the King's move? And if that was Larry Wheels trained to deal with a King's move, and Levon was his trainer, what will happen when Devon Larratt with his 46-year-old surgically repaired tendons, decides to bleed Levon by sitting in an open top roll King's move for the first round, or maybe even for 2 rounds, or even 3 rounds. Larry was done after 2 rounds against a guy trained by Eric Spotto. Do we believe Devon Larratt has a better understanding of the mechanics of this move and how to train his arm to make it the strongest it's ever been? Do we believe Devon will execute that move better than Brandon Allen did? Of course, Levon is Larry Wheels on steroids, or extra steroids, but Pancake Devon is certainly leaps and bounds ahead of Brandon Allen. If Levon doesn't understand that in a war, sometimes you must take a few rounds and defend before unleashing the offensive, he may be in trouble. If he doesn't understand that different battlefields require different strategies, well, he may be in trouble. If he doesn't realize that 46-year-old strength isn't necessarily old weakness, and that Devon's tendons and joints may very well be stronger than his or anyone he's ever faced, Levon may be in trouble. And if he thinks Devon Larratt will not approach this like the war of his life, and that he's not going to show up as the scariest warrior he's ever been, well, Levon Sagsinashvili may not just lose the first round of his professional super heavyweight career, he may very well lose the first match of his career. I'm going to predict Devon Larratt 4-3. That's right. This is the king of the table, 6 rounds. Devon may very well lose the first 3 rounds, but he will bleed out the Georgian Hulk's green blood from his hands, filter it through his favorite hoodie, making it a bright green Superman cape, and come back to beat the Georgian giant 4 straight to take the supermatch 4-3. If it's not 4-3, 4-2. Simply depends on how many King's moves it takes to bleed out the young man from Georgia. Remember, he is just a man. Or maybe Devon will shock us and destroy Levon 6-0 to keep his own streak going. At this point, nothing Devon Larratt accomplishes really surprises me. I'm done now.